It's time for bookkeeping, beer, and BS. What is up, Turfs Up Radio? This is Dan Plata coming at you with bookkeeping, beer, and BS. If you haven't tuned into the old midday happy hour show on bookkeeping, beer, and BS here, what we got going on is this is like your normal morning sports radio show, but it's more like a business afternoon happy hour show. I got Michael Gregory from Click Call Sell in the house. I got Shawn Day from Blue Skies, Blue Collar Recruiting in the house. We might get a guest appearance from James Mansky from Elkhorn Lawn Care coming in. I know he had a meeting. He was going to try to jump in when that was done. And then Rob Anderson's, who knows what Rob is doing, but if he shows up, he shows up. We got an interesting show today here, guys. And it's something that we're going through at Blue Skies. And so Shawn and I have both had to make some hard decisions recently to just like get the right people in the right seats on the bus and do that sort of thing. And it's something that we all need to do running a business, which is just the people and getting the right people. And sometimes that's a recruiting and a hiring thing, as Shawn talks about often, and making sure that we get the right people. But we don't always get the right people. And sometimes we don't know that they're not the right people for a while. And then sometimes our business changes, and whether we like it or not, we have to get rid of people. And so in our business, in our admin company, even recently, we've had to get rid of a few people. And it just made me think like, man, I know we're not alone, and our business is growing like crazy. We like record revenues again in May. And so it's like, we know we're doing something right, but we still have to financially keep the train on the tracks and make sure we have the best people to do the best things for the best customers to make the most of the business model. So anyway, I want to get into that. I want to get into the what and the how and the why of, after we've found what we thought were the right people, after we're working on the business, after we're having successes and failures, what are the tipping points? What are the reasons? What's the process or the decision when we need to let somebody go? And I just want to drop a hard F-bomb right now. I am the worst. I am the worst. And I'd like to think it's because I'm just such a nice darn guy, but I suck at letting people go. And I I try to find every reason not to, always. I'm very much a trust first, and then like trust until somebody breaks my trust. And I'm also kind of the same way with our employees, which is like, I just believe that they're going to get there, and I want to believe, and I want them to get there. And so I will keep convincing myself that they're the right person and that they will get there because I want it so bad for them. And then it takes me forever to let somebody go, and it sucks, and I hate it, and I'm really bad at it. Shawn's got kind of like a funny smile on his face. He's probably sitting over like, yeah, Dan, you are the worst, actually. Like literally mathematically, here's some data, and it shows you as the worst. Michael, how are you? Like, I don't know what the grading scale is, but let's say there's like a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being you're really good at letting people go. 0 being you're terrible at letting people go, which I think 0 could either be like, you let people go all the time and you're a total asshole about it. But 0 could maybe also be you never let people go because you're afraid to do it, which is kind of where I am, I think. And I'd say a 10 would be like you're consciously always evaluating and making those decisions and doing them like at the perfect time. And it's always right. And it's never too late. It's never too soon. You just let people go at the exact perfect time. And your employee's like, oh, he just always knows what to do. Where do you think you are? Where do you think you are in the 0 to 10 of letting people go?
I wish my employees could answer that question for you. That'd be a lot more real. I'm probably a 5. Of course, I've kept people around, the people that are like super talented and just so good at what they do, but they're assholes that nobody wants to be around. Those people you have a tendency to keep around for longer, and I've made that mistake. So I'll get right in the middle of the road. Vanilla answer of a 5.
Ooh, right in the middle. Some wins, some losses.
Oh,
Shawn, how about you? Where'd you put yourself?
My scale's kind of fluid, man. So I'm not quite sure what to tell you. When I first started in business, it was a 0. It was horrible. I remember talking to a cousin of mine who's pretty successful in some food business. And he had like 80 employees at the time. And I saw him at a wedding. I'm like, Jimmy, man, I think I got to fire this employee. He's like, well, what the hell are you waiting for? What are you doing? He goes, I love firing people, man, because I know it's the right thing to do when I do it. And it helps them usually. And it definitely helps me in the business. And he's like smiling and he's going like this. And I'm like, what? And so that took me a long way. And it got easier and easier and easier. And I don't remember really the last time I had to fire somebody, because I've got a manager or two that can do that for me now. And it's a lot easier to have that conversation with the manager about, hey, you need to take care of this, man, than it is for Shawn Day to do it, because I'd probably be about a 5 as well, or somewhere in there.
I was gonna say, I feel like I give myself a 3, but 3 is also my like lucky number or favorite number. And so maybe I just gravitate towards that. But I'm good at knowing, like when I do a P&L review with somebody, I can tell them like, oh, you're heavy here. You either need to like change the way you're paying your people. And so that's going to mean you're going to lose some people, and that's okay because the people you keep are going to be that much more productive. Or you're heavy on admin. Let's talk about your admin people. That person needs to go. When it's not mine and it's not my person, I don't have a relationship with them. Like math, I'm just all math, right? I'm a finance guy. It's just all math. Like, probably a great person. But when they're my people, and this like, this is like one of those things where it's a weakness and a strength. They're like a flaw, but I think it's also what makes us blue skies. Like one of our core values is loyalty. And so that's like being loyal to our employees and having their back. Right. And so it's a weird line of you're having your employees back, but at some point, if they aren't the right person for the role, you're not helping them, and you're sure as hell not helping the rest of your team. So like loyalty is such a double-edged sword where it's like, we got to be loyal to our team. And for us, that's like loyal to our team, loyal to the business, loyal to the customer. Like it extends to all of our stakeholders is how we apply that. Well, like we're clearly not being loyal to the business if we're holding people that are making the business less successful. We're clearly not being loyal to the other, to their coworkers if we keep somebody around that's underperforming. But it's hard to you want to, because that's a good human being. That's the hardest, when they're like a great person. And it's just maybe that they're not in the right role or whatever the case is. So I think that's what that's the crux for me. That's where I get held up, is I'm just like, oh, we got to be loyal.
I think
this person.
I think the toughest one is when you have somebody that's been a really good, loyal employee for a couple of years and their life changes. And it's a divorce, it's a boyfriend, it's a girlfriend, it's a drug problem. Yeah, the old drug problem. Boy, is that a fun one. I've got meningitis, man. I'm all right. All right. Well, that's cool. You got mono. Okay. Yeah. Okay. No, you've got a needle in your arm. And that sucks, because that's the one where you're going, man, you ain't the same person. So now, but I know this history with you and what a great person you are. But it's not the same person. It's just the same body. And that makes it really difficult to fire somebody, in my experience anyway.
Yeah.
It's a really good point. Well, you nailed it, Dan. I think what you said is the exact reason you need a coach or an amazing vendor like you are, because when you're able to think objectively about a business, because that's what it is. And you've probably heard my videos on the Conquer page. It's just an exercise of math, right? Every line item needs to be within this range of healthy range. And if it's not there, there's an issue. Specifically when it talks to bodies, whether it's admin or technicians, it's usually inefficiency or not charging enough. And so we need to identify what the source of that is. And when you have an objective mind, somebody who's there as a coach or a consultant or a vendor that's able to see that, it's usually able to take the emotion that you both just mentioned out of that. Because in our own businesses, of course, we see the troubles and the struggles that our employees go through. And we don't want to be the person that lets them down even more and takes them down that rabbit hole even more. It's hard. It sucks.
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Shawn.
I remember I can't remember who taught me this or brought me to it, but it's Henry Cloud, I think is his name. And he talks about the wise, the foolish, and the evil. And he's obviously got some biblical context to that, but there's something that you can look at pretty clearly with that and say, we're either pretty wise or we're foolish or we're evil. So if somebody's malicious and evil, I mean, that's kind of the no-brainer one. But, human beings, good human beings, loyal human beings that are employees can make mistakes. It's just a matter, even if the math is wrong, in my view. I know you guys are talking about the math, and I get that. That's the bottom line, because business doesn't succeed without that math, and I understand that. Sometimes it's hard to figure that out, though. I mean, what is the math on somebody's husband starting to beat the hell out of them that didn't happen 2 years ago? Where's that math at? So I think, in my view, especially when we talk about millennials coming up, and those are the folks that we're hiring and stuff. These are the ones that are the first generation to get the trophies for just participation. They're the first ones that have all these screens in front of them. They're the ones that have all these things, and it's not their fault. And they're very, very much, this is in general, of course, they're very much entitled. I'm entitled to student loans being paid off that I want paid off, and I can't understand why you wouldn't want to pay my student loan off. Okay, that's sort of kind of where we're headed a little bit, and that's fine. It's not their fault. That's how they were raised. So I think there's a huge lack in leadership in the industry right now of taking that human being that doesn't really get it, that could be a really, really good employee, or maybe they're burning out a little bit or something like that. I don't know where to find that in the math. I know I can maybe address it before I have to look at the math, though.
Yeah. Well, and I think where I struggle is I'm looking at the math all the time, and we just had this happen in our bookkeeping business where we got like sideways on our cost of goods sold, and then it got more sideways, and then it got more sideways. And we kind of kept making excuses for the reasons why we weren't being productive. And they were really good excuses, right? It was like, well, we let that person go, and there was a bunch of work that they didn't do right, and we got to so now this person's got to go fix it, so their production rate is slow, or this person's getting up to speed, so their production rate is slow, and we just kind of got lazy with it. And I don't think we need to let anybody go, but we did have to have like a hard productivity conversation of like, our clients pay us to get things done for them, not to like explore the interwebs of an accounting rule or QuickBooks. Like, we got to do a good job, but like we have the systems and processes in place for a reason. And so like, it always comes back to the math to know how many people you can afford to have on the team. And then the hard part, and this is something Shawn and I had to do recently. We just had to like right size some of our teams and be like, okay, the math says X, Y, or Z. It now has nothing to do. It's like position elimination a little bit. It now has nothing to do with, this person exists and we have work on the schedule for them, but they can't do it well. Shawn and I ran into the other situation, which was we don't have a lot of work on the schedule for this person, or that like our business model's changing, that role is changing. We just don't really have a seat on the bus for that person. Mm-hmm. We had a couple of people on a recruiting team where we like changed our business model a little bit, and it was like, we just don't have this. We don't have a role for that anymore. The business model changed. What recruiting is constantly changing, and what our clients need is changing too. On the admin side, we were going to have somebody do sales demos for me, and it just didn't work. It didn't work financially. It was really hard for somebody else to like do these demos instead of me doing the demos. And I think someday we'll find the right person. We'll figure out the way to like structure that role, but it wasn't like a seat on the bus that existed. We had somebody doing social media stuff for us internally, and that didn't work. And so we had to get rid of some roles, and in turn, like, the person goes with it unless we had a seat on the bus. We had one person in a role in our company where like the role kind of disappeared, but we were able to like replace them into an okay role. But the thing I didn't like about it, I feel really good about the decisions we made. And I think like part of the process of letting people go is it sucks and you dread it. And there's just this like dread coming up to it and some guilt coming up to it. And even like before and after and during, there's like guilt of like, man, I wish we could like do something to like help this person out or like keep them here, whatever the case is. But it like also lifts a tremendous weight off your shoulders when you just get it done. And you're like, okay, therefore I know we're going to get this right. Like the business model is dialed in. And if it's the case of like, we had to let this person go because they were underperforming or they didn't fit our culture or whatever the case was, the weight that comes off your shoulders of like, yeah, I know we don't have, Michael, you were saying earlier, like when you're 4 weeks booked out, do you let somebody go even when they're like violating your core values and they're not doing what they're supposed to do and whatever? But it's like, how do you let somebody go when you're booked so far out? Like when you do, it still is this like crazy ass weight off of your shoulders. You dread the hell out of it, but it's like there's the two different sides of that coin when you just like right size the business or get rid of positions versus somebody's not performing or is going against your core values and you got to let them go.
Yeah, I want to go back to what Shawn was saying. I mean, he got really deep by, spousal abuse or a needle in your arm. Like those are big deals that are happening. But I mean, think about all of your technicians or the technicians of the clients that you have. Breakups, debt, living situations, reliable transportation. Like these are common issues that your employees are dealing with on a regular basis. Like, I have childcare. Like I have to take my kid to daycare in the morning and they don't open until 7:30. I can't be here at whatever, you just make up the reason or a breakup. And so I think that it's important to know like small businesses versus large businesses and the level of support that we can offer as small businesses versus like a Fortune 500 company. And our role as a CEO is we're not therapists or life coaches. I mean, for the most part, somebody that owns a business might be a therapist and be like, I can, whatever. But overall, we're not therapists or life coaches. So where do we draw the line of the support that we can offer? Because what's really important is consistency, right? If you can't go way be over and above for one employee that has an issue, and then 3 weeks later, somebody else has the same issue, like, sorry, you're fired. Now you're getting into the point where it's discrimination. You're, offering people different things. So you have to find a way that's consistent within your organization and treating everybody exactly the same.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's tricky to do because there's no situation that's exactly the same.
It's not. No, it isn't.
If you take the emotion completely out of it, it's no different than I'm listening to a job report and stuff on Friday, and Target comes out and the CEO's on CNBC and he's talking about his inventory. And because of the supply chain, they're getting shit that consumers wanted 8, 9, 10 months ago, and it's now showing up on their shelf. They need to get rid of that stuff. So they're getting rid of it or firing it and getting it off their shelf. That's really what we need to do. If there's things in our stock, whether that's a human being, a window cleaning supplies or old pumps or old this, get it out because it's not doing anything but taking up space and costing money.
It's true, man. It's true. And it's like, we don't like to look at people like that, right? Because it's a human with real world problems and stuff like that. But this is also a business, right? And one of our bookkeeping employees we were having a conversation about like whether they were staying or going and all this stuff. And one of the things I had to explain to them is the CEO or the person that's got to make all the hard decisions. It's a constant exercise in compartmentalization of, I mean, the guy that was doing demos for me, awesome guy, would have a beer with him anytime, would love to find a role for him in our company. This just wasn't the right one, and it wasn't the right time, and it wasn't the right fit. We have to let him go. We have to. Financially, we have to. There's no possible way to make it work. That doesn't mean I don't like the guy. Just the nature, we have to compartmentalize those decisions. But it's so easy to say.
You said something about guilt too, and shame or whatever. You kind of feel that way.
Dude, I get massive guilt, man.
But here's the thing. Think about this for a minute. And let's say you fired 1,000 people over a certain amount of time. How many of them did you find out through the grapevine were now homeless, living in the streets, and they're dying in the streets somewhere, right? I would say probably 0 out of 1,000 of people, right? Now, it could happen. I get it. Maybe somebody out there listening, it's happened or whatever. But most of the time, I really think that when the door shuts, they got to go find something else. And hopefully they're finding something else a little bit better.
Yeah.
For them.
When it's my business, I feel like just a greater sense of responsibility. When I was at Cargill, one of the last things I did at Cargill and this was like mathematically, financially, I think this circumstance was happening for like a decade before I got there. And I was the one that I won't say I did it because it's a corporation, like a bunch of us did it. But I was the one that financially was saying, we have to do this. And it was shut down a whole plant. We have to get rid of this facility. And I don't remember how many people work there, 50. So in one mathematical calculation, now we ended up selling it to one of our customers, actually, and it was up in Canada. But it was a very easy decision for me to make because I only knew a couple of the people that worked there. I didn't have I liked the people that worked there, but I didn't see them every day. I didn't work with them every day. So to me, it was just this mathematical calculation of this makes no sense for us to be trying to run this business in Canada. I can see we're losing money over and over again, and we just keep making all these excuses as to why we can't get rid of this business and we got to keep it for the employees, or we got to keep it for this one other customer or whatever. We just kept making excuses. And then I find myself doing that in our businesses too, because now I'm the one with the relationships. And one of the things I despised from the corporate world, which was we can't fire anybody. It's like, we all know this guy needs to go. Like, what are we waiting for? And like, we would ride him out until like, or we would like, we'd send them off into a different division of this huge company, right? But they would like we'd
hide them somewhere in a corner.
Yeah, and people would get traded. So there was these two funny circles of trades that would happen in the corporate world. One is your elite performers get traded left and right. They moved all over the damn place. They're in this job, and then they get moved, and so you know who those people are because you just keep seeing them get bounced around. They're in a job for a year or two, and they just keep getting moved around, and so they're getting traded because they're like the high performers. And then there was this other trade that happened a little bit slower, but it was the very weak performers that nobody wanted. And they would get slowly traded because one business wanted to get rid of them and would encourage them to move on. And they would have these like performance improvement things, but it was so hard to fire somebody because of the massive HR in this company. You couldn't fire somebody, or like it was impossible to let somebody go. And so instead of letting them go, you would just let them linger and hide them until you could trade them. And you would see them get traded it was more of like a 5 or 6 year cycle because it was more of a pain in the ass than moving the high performers. They were getting more attention, but the super low performers would just get these weird trades. The low performance trade doesn't happen in like a blue skies business. I think it's just kind of like you know what? It did happen that one time, Shawn. Remember, I won't say any names, but then Denise ended up being the one that had to fire her. Yep. So we did do a low performance trade at one point in time. And actually Dalkey did it to me too. When I first took over as the CEO, there was like a year in at one point, I let a guy go and he's like, man, I'm so glad you let that guy go. Like he needed to go when I switched to you. And I was like, why did you give him to me? Like, I thought he was your guy. Like I was just hanging on to him because I thought you liked him. I didn't want to let him go. And he's like, oh man, he was such a low performer. I was just like, oh man, like you just traded him to me. And I didn't know that I couldn't just let him go right away. And so eventually I let him go. And Dalkey was like, yeah, the guy needed to go. He sucked. I was like, well, thanks, Mike. I thought he was good. I thought there was a reason you were keeping him. So it has happened in blue skies. But I think the thing that I despise most about the corporate world is just the inability to let people go. And I do find, and this is just like a function of me, is that I keep people longer than I need to. I want to hit a quick commercial break, and I'm going to come back with a quote that I had to like tell to myself. It's not a quote that I made up. It's one of my business partners, Shawn, one that you'll get a crack out of this one. But I want to hit that quote when we get back here on Bookkeeping, Beer, and BS. In the meantime, let me hit a couple quick commercial breaks.
Isn't it nice when the weather cooperates and crews complete jobs on time and on budget? But weather can cause delays. And with paper route sheets, jobs get lost in the shuffle. That's why you need Aspire Crew Control scheduling software, an easy-to-use, flexible, and affordable solution that allows you to shift schedules with a single click. Try Aspire Crew Control for free at aspirecrewcontrol.com.
Hardworking hands reach for Gemplers for pro-grade landscape tools and gear. Much like our customers, Gemplers is family-owned and independent, which makes it easy to shop online and get your orders shipped quickly from our warehouse straight to your front door. Rather speak to a human? No worries. Gemplers always answers your call. Shop Gemplers for supplies from tools to tree care, safety to sprayers, watering to workwear, and even add your logo for free to show your customers that you're serious. Right now, buy any 2 pairs of work gloves and get a 3rd pair free. Mix and match, no limit, stock up for spring. Shop Gemplers.com. That's GEMPLERS.com.
Hey, this is Darren. So you thought owning your own business was going to be stress-free and everybody was going to appreciate everything you do for them? Well, I guess you found out the hard way, didn't you? But we both know it's not your fault. Sometimes it's your clients who piss you off. Sometimes it's your vendors or even some of your employees know how to get under your skin. Well, that's why I'm here. Join me live every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on my new show, Talkin' Trash. We can finally talk all the trash we want about these unappreciative, ignorant jerks live on the air. So why don't you join me every Tuesday and Thursday right here on Talkin' Trash, only on Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station. Let's see if you got the guts to let it all out.
Are you a military family with a spouse on deployment away from home? Did you know that nonprofit Project Evergreen has thousands of volunteers across the country ready to help military families with lawn, landscape, and snow removal services? We call it Green Care and Snow Care for troops. If you are a military family and would like to receive this free service, or if you'd like to volunteer to help, visit projectevergreen.org. Project Evergreen, creating a greener, healthier, cooler Earth, 1 yard at a time.
All right, ladies and gents, boys and girls, dudes and dudettes, we're back on Turfs Up Radio with a little more bookkeeping, beer, and BS. We're talking about firing people, talking about letting people go, and all the good and the bad that comes with it. I got to hit the Facebook feed here a little bit. Let me turn this background music down just a little bit. I'm gonna keep it on. I'm gonna keep the background music on for a little second here. Jay Camarero checking in says thank you to Shawn and Blue Collar Recruiting. Started the year with 5 people, now have 15. That's a good.
It can be done. It can be done.
Yeah, there's nobody out there that wants to work. Just a 200% increase in employees using Blue Collar Recruiting has helped tremendously. Shout out Sean Day.
Hey, thank you.
Madeline Bartario. Madeline, I probably butchered the hell out of that. She said, Ben there, we were talking early on about, when we hire the wrong person, she said she does a trial period. Jay chimed in and said he does a 60-day probation period. And he said he sleeps better after he fires someone. It's just, same thing. It's just like when you make that hard decision that needs to be done and you can stop thinking about it and just get it done. Jeremiah Green in the house. Jeremiah, man, how the heck you been? It's been a while since I saw from Jeremiah. He says, what's up? Gene O'Neill in the house. Gene, the weather must be shitty down by you. I'm surprised you're not out fishing. You should be out fishing. Gene said when an employee is too dumb to learn anything else, you make them a manager. isn't that like, that's kind of like the when you can't teach. John Majak in the house. What's up, buddy? What's good? All right. So before the commercial break, I was saying, I have a business partner that it might not be his quote. You never really know who the first one was that said something, but every time I don't fire somebody or don't let somebody go, this like haunts me. And when I do let somebody go, I'm just like, oh yeah, should have listened to that one. Derek Christian, my business partner, he owns part of our St. Louis business. He operates our Cincinnati business. He's a business partner in that one. His statement that I will never forget was, if you're thinking about letting somebody go, you already should have done it. Like the minute you have that thought, you already know. And I had mentioned from our admin company here, 2 people that I let go. I had a guy that I was training to do sales demos, and he was okay. He was coming along, and I kept making excuses for why he was coming along. But I think early on, I had the thought process of like, I just don't think this is the perfect fit. I really like this guy, and I want to make him work. And I think, Shawn, it might have been on one of our leadership calls. I had literally said, he's okay. He's probably not the best at this thing, but I think we can make it work. What a shitty vote of confidence that was. Like, I wish you guys would have been like, Dan, like, he's not the right guy. Like, you already, like, literally, did you hear what you just said? Like, I think I can make it work. And so I went back to what Derek said, and it was just like, oh, I thought about not keeping him going. This was like 3 months ago that I had made that comment. And so I'm way too late. So like I had that realization, and this business is growing like crazy, but we brought on too many. Our administrative line item was way off. Our administrative overhead. If you guys know how I manage my P&L, I'm very like mathematical with my buckets. Admin costs need to be about 15%. We were at like 22%. We just overinvested too soon. Now, sometimes you got to like overextend and grow into it. We weren't growing into it nearly fast enough. This was taking way too long to get him up to speed, and it wasn't adding value fast enough. But I should have made this decision 3 months ago, not when I did. Better late than never, but like needed to hear that. The other decision that I made, and I had gotten feedback from team members of ours that the guy we had doing social media wasn't quite crushing it. He was doing good at his social media stuff. And Mikey, if you're out there and see you, love you, man. We basically just eliminated the position. There wasn't enough value to add in that role in our company. He's the best at taking feedback, like the freaking best. Every time we gave him some feedback, and he was young, he had a lot of stuff to learn. There was stuff he could improve on. He didn't crush everything he touched, but every time we gave him feedback, he was like, yep, I'm on it. I'm going to get better. And he just kept going and kept going. But when we were in this financial pinch, and so there were times previously where I was like, I just don't know that we need this role, but I like Mikey. Even though I know we don't really need this role and it's not going to be the greatest fit, we just kept it because we liked him. And so eventually, and he had said like, hey, I kind of need more hours. I need to make more money. I was like, man, we're kind of going the other way because we're probably going to exit one of these home cleaning businesses, which means you'll have less to do. And we're using this less and less and less. And so we just got to eliminate this position so you can go do something where you're going to get more hours. And Shawn and I will send him work, I'm sure, to do like work for us because he was good. He's awesome. Like for what Shawn and I do, Mikey can make great content for us and do super valuable stuff, but it just worked better to like hire him as a subcontractor in those cases. So anyway, super hard decisions to make. And I waited until we were in this like financial crisis of, oh shit, we have to like get rid of non-revenue generating roles and non-value added positions. But if I would have just like harnessed my inner Derek Christian, he told me the minute you start thinking about it, it's too like, just do it. You're already thinking about it. It's, you know, if you're thinking about it, it's probably the right thing to do. And if I relive all the times where I didn't let people go, eventually it always burned me. It always like in something that they did and just the financial results of keeping them on. And like it burned our P&L. I go back to Tony, who used to work in our Minneapolis business that eventually broke some screens over his knee at one of our window cleaning clients, threw him in the woods. Like that was firing him when I had like 12 conversations and I knew we needed to let him go and I let it get to that. So
that would be under not wise, not foolish, but maybe evil.
that one hit the evil category. That he literally got so frustrated with the homeowner's screens that he broke them over his knee and threw them in the woods at her house. Didn't tell her. She saw him do it, and he didn't know that she saw him. And luckily, she was a home cleaning client of ours, and a Holiday Light client of ours, and a window cleaning client of ours. And I had cleaned her house. Like Elizabeth and I were tight, and she was a very serious person. I'm not a very serious person. People like that kind of scare me when they're like super serious. And she like had my cell phone number, and I was like, "Why is Elizabeth calling me?" And I answered it, and she's like, "Hey Dan, I like you. I respect you. Your employee is here. He broke my screens over his knee. He threw them in the woods. Can you have him leave and have somebody else come out and finish the job?" It was just like super black and white. It was just like, I know what needs to be done. Here's what you need to do. And
she's fired a lot of people with no problem.
I bet, yeah, she was just like, so like, here's what you need to do. And I was like, thank God it was you, you know, and in like a funny way, because anybody else I feel like would be irate and would be blasting you all over the place. And so that employee obviously had to go. That was a little bit easier decision, but I waited too long. I knew he needed to go way before that. Do you guys so I go back to that lesson that Derek taught me about like when you're thinking about it, it's time. Have you guys had those circumstances before where you like got burned by somebody that you knew you needed to let go and you didn't? And then later on, you're like, I knew it. I knew I needed to do it and I just didn't do it. Now I'm paying the price for it.
So many times. I mean, one of them turned into when I was with corporate America, turned into a pretty big sexual harassment claim that this person
that you made or against you.
Come on, I wouldn't admit like the story wouldn't be it was about me, but it turned into just this absolute like.
This isn't about me.
Yeah, that's why I quit.
Got this friend.
It's made me very self-conscious and aware of how you act and behave to people. But no, you see that if you don't let somebody go, it's just going to snowball and just turn into this stick of dynamite that you have no idea what's going to happen or when. One thing I do like to tell my employees, and especially in coaching, is that the consulting we talked about this earlier, like my ability to be objective, your ability to be objective, because we're a third party, analyzing, looking in, is I like to give a presentation to all of my leadership team because it's pretty cool when they can do progressive discipline on somebody and actually terminate somebody without me being involved at all. Mm-hmm. And I talk about the difference between a emotion, like how I feel about you as an individual, and with the business needs, right? So compartmentalized, every seat has its own, on your bus, on your business, has a specific role. And I even use an analogy of an engine motor. I have like all the car parts in a photo, and I talk about like, take out the spark plug, car ain't gonna start, right? You do this and it ain't gonna run. And it's like that with the business too. And so how I feel about you as an individual, and I use some of the stories and things that we've had throughout my history with the leadership team and our employees of what we've done to go above and beyond to support people in moments where they needed somebody to be there. And we were the person that had to deliver that. But over the course of time, you have to be able to separate the way I feel about you as an individual, knowing that seat needs a role to be filled. And it's really hard to do, but over, scorecards and making sure you're measuring success of all of your employees is really important. You have to be able to have something tangible, and every role in your company needs to have some sort of metrics that you can measure and see how they're performing on the job. And if they're not living up to that, it needs to go into a business conversation, and always being emotional. Like, as a human being, I love you, I care about you, and I want you to get the help that you need to get done. As an employee of the company, these need to get done because it doesn't matter where they're missing. There's a trickle down effect. There's something, if your technicians are slow, it's causing sales to not be able to, or admin to not book as many jobs. It's causing somebody else to have to get extra work. It's causing the business to have overtime, and like, it's just trickling down, affecting every single person in the company. And so that's the message that you need, your leadership team, or you need to understand that it's not about, at some point in time, it's not about the individual, it's about the performance. And what always gets it for coaching clients is, if you feel that strongly about them, hire somebody else and just keep paying them a salary to not work. And then you can help support them while they're not working. And every time, like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Well, they're hurting your business. They're literally costing you.
You already know what you need to do.
Yeah. And so that helps tremendously by kind of doing that. And I wish Rob was here, because we always used to joke, and I've done this with coaching for like 10 years now, is ask, have you ever regretted firing a bad employee? And 100% of the time it was like, nope. Maybe day one, the 36 hours of pain. But day one, it might hurt a little bit, but week 3, you're always glad. I've never heard one person say, shouldn't have fired that person. They were so awesome, they didn't deserve to get fired. No, it's 100%. You should.
Yeah, that's a great point. I've never made a phone call that went something like this. Hey, Joe, man, I'm so sorry I fired you. I have no idea what I was thinking. Will you please come back? Please, Joe. Never have I had that type of phone call.
Ever. And you guys both work in recruiting, so you made my sample size even bigger. It's literally 100%.
That's a good point.
I'm
screwing my brain on times where because there are times where we like have brought people back, but it's not when we fired them. It's when they left and we like mutually split ways. And it was like, yeah, you got to go pursue an opportunity. And then we never like beg them to come back because they're off. They chose to try to go find greener pastures, but oftentimes they end up coming back. So
way different. Like somebody leaving on their own versus you terminating somebody, of course.
Yep. Right. Yep. For sure.
So we talked about sort of what we went through, Dan, with Blue Skies. It's kind of like trimming the fat a little bit is what we were doing. What about, Michael, you had been talking about this before we got on live, was what about that situation where the demand is so high, you're booked out 4-6 weeks, but we all know it's a real tough job market. You can't find anybody and all that type of thing. So what do? You've got 2 guys, damn well you need to fire. What's your choices there? You've got choices. What are those choices that you tell your clients? And then what do you tell them? Here's what the process is to look through this, and here's what you need to decide.
Yeah, I think everybody on this call here is a very unique perspective in that we're close to a lot of business owners. Like, I am intimately close to 25 people that I coach in the Conquer program. I mean, I know them, their families, their employees, how their business has grown, like everything about them. And this is especially right now during the busy season when it's critical, and it's time and time again. And you just see these situations and scenarios where they seem like this crazy anomaly, but it happens a lot more often in that you're in the spring season, you have, 2, 3, 6, 10 techs, whatever the number is, you're booked out a long way and you can't hire people. You've been trying as much as you can to get people onboarded, but you just can't. So you have a capacity issue. You're doing all the things you need to do to get people hired, but you have a toxic employee that other employees are coming to you and saying there's an issue. They're underperforming, bad attitude. You name the reason, it doesn't matter. So the scenario is, what do? Do you just weather it out? Just know, like, let's get to the summer, then trim the fat once we get to the summer? Do you let them go? And I don't really want to talk about my perspective because I want to hear what yours is, Shawn, and then I could share mine as well. But what do you do in the situation when you're booked out 4, 6, 8 weeks, you've got an employee that you know is not a good culture fit, somebody that's for whatever reason doing something wrong. What do you advise your client in that situation?
Well, this is easy for me as a recruiter. I'm saying you recruit, spend more, and replace these people. I think my view is that almost anybody out there that is in that situation somewhere along the line stopped recruiting. Mm-hmm. They thought they were at perfect capacity and demand, even maybe a little overstaffed, and they stopped spending and they stopped investing in recruiting. And I think so when you do that, that problem is definitely going to arise because somebody's going to get hurt and need to leave. Whatever it is, you're going to get short-staffed if you do that, especially in this market. So that's number one. Number two, I would say that it's time to recruit and spend more money and invest more money. If you're not doing the recruiting properly and always, you're going to have that situation. That's the one way to prevent it and get out of it. If for some reason you're in a part of the country where you could spend $10,000 a month and still not find 2 people, you could have a business that's so unique that you can't find that right person. I know like plumbers, HVAC guys that have to have somebody licensed and all that stuff can be really difficult. It's super competitive, or something that can take a long time to hire a specific person. My short answer is I'd rather back up and maybe even lose a client or 2. Okay. I'd rather lose a client or 2 than to go out and half-ass clean them so that they tell everybody in their neighborhood that we suck. I'd be much more inclined to be honest and transparent with clients and let them know I don't think we're going to be able to get to you in the next few weeks like we thought. We do have you on the schedule. Can we back that out another couple weeks? Because the labor market's very difficult right now, and I'd rather send you somebody out that is first class, world class, and provide the best service for you than somebody that I'm thinking about firing, but I just can't fire them because I'm in a pinch. That's my view.
So would you, and there's probably like a spectrum of options here. And so it's like, it depends if it's this bad or only this bad. Would you keep let's say there's just one person underperforming and you're debating if you let them go or not. Would you keep them and just start recruiting like crazy until you find their replacement, hire their replacement, and then fire them, or maybe even like hire their replacement, get the replacement trained? Hopefully you hire like 2 or 3, right? Don't just hire 1, but hire 2 or 3, make sure they're replaced and then let them go? Or would you rip the Band-Aid and just let them go and then start recruiting and just hope that you can like hang on?
Hardworking hands reach for Gemplers for pro-grade landscape tools and gear. Much like our customers, Gemplers is family-owned and independent, which makes it easy to shop online and get your orders shipped quickly from our warehouse straight to your front door. Rather speak to a human? No worries. Gemplers always answers your call. Shop Gemplers for supplies from tools to tree care, safety to sprayers, watering to workwear, and even add your logo for free to show your customers that you're serious. Right now, buy any 2 pairs of work gloves and get a 3rd pair free. Mix and match, no limit, stock up for spring. Shop Gemplers.com. That's GEMPLERS.com.
Hey, this is Darren, your host of the Weekend Review here on Turfs Up Radio. Be sure not to miss a new episode every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. I'll be with a new guest contributor every week reviewing what you may have missed on Turfs Up Radio, and together we'll help you plan your week by getting you the most out of our Traffic on the Turf and Product of the Day segments. That's the Weekend Review every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. And remember, Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station.
Creating art from darkness. For over 20 years, Cast Lighting has designed and manufactured the world's most durable, energy-efficient, and technically advanced landscape lighting products available at astonishingly affordable prices. Cast offers an all-encompassing line of products with everything you need to get the job done. Cast Lighting gives you innovative, state-of-the-art, old-world craftsmanship with tomorrow's technology. Visit their website at cast-lighting.com today. That's cast-lighting.com.
Attention all veterans. Have you heard about Turf's Up Radio's Jobs for Vets program? If you are looking for a job and you're interested in working in the landscape and snow removal profession, there just might be a company in your local area that is looking to hire. All you have to do is send us your resume at jobsforvets@turfsupradio.com. That's jobsforvets@turfsupradio.com. Turf's Up Radio, your industry, your station.
All right. We got like another 10 minutes of badass content to bring to you right here on Bookkeeping Beer and BS. I'm Dan Plata, the service CFO. We got Michael Gregory from Click Call Sell, Conquer Coach Extraordinaire. We got Shawn Day from Blue Skies Services, Blue Collar Recruiting. We're bringing it on home here on Turf's Up Radio. We're talking about firing people. Firing people just sounds harsh. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's why I suck at it. It just feels like it's just too harsh. But the question we posed here before the commercial break was this: you got that bad performer, and you're booked out 4+ weeks. Do you start recruiting, hire a couple people, hopefully to potentially replace that person? You know, once you hire them, or you think you've got them hired, or you get them in training, then you let the person go. Or do you just rip that Band-Aid off right away and then put that pedal down on recruiting right away the minute you let them go? And like Shawn said earlier, you should have just been recruiting the whole time, but you weren't. Now here you are. You just let them go and then scramble. We're going to stick with the scenario because it's already been painted. I think an even more dire scenario is when you run a recurring service business. If you're like in maid service or lawn care or pest control where you have a route, it's even harder to let that person go. Because 4 to 6 weeks of like appointments, you have a little more flexibility. But when it's a bi-weekly client, you got to be there every 2 weeks and they got a relationship with that person. Then it gets even like a little goofier. Anyway, Michael, I cut you off when you were going to get into it. And then we played some commercials, but here we are back. What do you think?
That was good teeing it up because I was about to do the same thing. You did it way better than I would. So my answer would be
that's why I get paid the big bucks to be the show host.
I know. Yeah. I could tell. You're sitting in like a third-rate bar. It looks fantastic.
you should see what this room actually looks like. Embarrassing.
So the answer, I mean, Shawn nailed it. Like, it does depend. There's no black and white answer, like always do this and always fire somebody. But the question I would start with, will corrective action or progressive discipline solve the issue, right? If it's a cancer, somebody who's like literally lying or cheating or stealing, like there's certain like red flags, but
foolish evil, if they're evil, that's
yes, exactly. So that, I mean, of course there's that, but I mean, in the gray area where they're just not performing or producing at the level that you require people to do. Is it a training issue? Is it something that they just don't have the tools or the resources where they don't have the fancy new truck with all the fancy new things and they just can't do it? So you want to kind of look at it case by case, but really it all comes down to culture. One thing I like to always talk about is consistency and predictability. Consistency is doing the same thing every single time, all the time, which you can always change your process, but when you change it, be consistent in how you change it. And then predictability means, is it predictable? When an employee comes in late, do they know what's going to happen, right? Do they know, is it everything that happens throughout the day? They know, oh, this happened. So as a result, this is also going to happen. So consistency and predictability is incredibly important in every single business. And always be recruiting for the reason of your measurables. People are, especially as you grow as a percentage, you're just naturally going to have that bottom 20% of people, and 20% of 4 is a lot smaller than 20% of 50. So as you scale, you have to always be aware that you're going to have that 80-20 rule applying with everything that you have in business. And another one too is, this is what I talk about in coaching all the time. It's this nerdy term in cognitive behavior called availability heuristic. You guys ever heard this phrase before, term before?
I haven't, but I like it.
Or availability bias. So basically what it means is human beings, our brains naturally weigh heavier the things that are easy to process. It's easy to process that today I'm going to lose revenue because I have a crappy employee. If I let them go, I'm going to lose revenue today. But it's harder to process the impact that they're having on the other employees, the messages you're sending to the other employees by not getting rid of this person and forcing them to work in an environment that could potentially be unhealthy. And again, there's different levels of unhealthy work environment, but what message does it send? And that goes to the consistency and predictability, right? Is if you're letting one person who's an A player, high top performer, who's a toxic or cancerous employee work, it's creating a message to everybody else that you can also show up for late to work, or you can also call out, no call, no show. You can also treat people, poorly or against your core values because they do a really good job. So you have to be really careful. And it's a lot more difficult to process the long or medium and long-term vision of your company because of what's happening today or this week. And Shawn, I think both of you mentioned, calling those customers and explaining the situation of what's going on. 9 times out of 10, of course, you're going to have your anomalies, but the customers are going to be very grateful knowing that you're not going to send a toxic employee, or you've had an issue where you care deeply about them and their safety and whatever it could be. So making sure that you're communicating that, and the short-term losses for long-term gains, the long-term is going to greatly outpace it because it's going to make a stronger culture. It's going to make your team respect you more. It's going to create that consistency and predictability that every business needs. And what would you do, or what do you do if somebody has cancer? You cut it out. You got to get rid of it. And otherwise it's just going to grow. And you've heard so many stories. Brandon Vaughn, his employees suck and I quit video that has like 50,000 views now, all came from one cancerous employee that talked 5 people or 6, whatever it was, into quitting. One day he showed up and nobody showed up to work. If he would have fired that employee early on, it wouldn't have happened.
There's a couple of things there, Michael, that you said, and you kind of alluded to it earlier about when one employee does something to affect the business negatively, there's a trickle effect. It affects other people in the business, or customers, or vendors even. And so when you're short-staffed, you need to be careful what that does with other employees, because they'll turn on you real quick if you're making them work 75 hours a week to pick up the slack, and you're not recruiting, and all those things affect them and burn them out as well. And so one of the things that Dan, I know you did it and I did it today, was had what we call the State of the Union of the business, because we had some things going on. We've got some changes going on. And Dan, I think, did that Monday maybe. I did it today with our crew, to let our current employees, who are our employees, know what's going on. And it's an important enough thing that I want them on Zoom, or, if you've got your office and they're local and not remote, we're on Zoom and I'm just explaining to them exactly what happened, because it's coming from me, not from gossip, not from what from maybes and all that. Here's precisely what's happened and why it happened, and why you should feel comfortable that it's the right choice and you're still here and your job's secure and we love you. And we had to do that as well.
I wish we did it more often. I feel like I don't do that enough with all of our businesses, and especially our bookkeeping team, because we're just growing so fast. Yeah. Like, I don't, like, half the people I'm corresponding to here and there, it's like I've never even been on a Zoom with them before, because I'm not the one hiring them anymore. And so we're just, things are moving real fast. But every time I do a call like that, I get unanimous feedback. Like, we got to do that more often. Like, I want to know what's going on. I want to know what we need. Right. I get nervous, like, going into those, because I feel like I'm being a hard ass, and everybody replies and is like, I didn't realize that. Like, I wish I would have known that. Like, let me know what I can do. Right. And it's like, we forget that our employees love our damn business and want it to succeed as bad as we do. Like, they, I mean, probably not all of them, but I think all the ones we have right now sure as hell do. So it's so valuable to, like, have those conversations and to, like we talked about, weed out the ones where it's maybe not a great fit. But so if we get to it before they get to our A players and, cancerize them, that's probably a word, right? Yep, for sure. But I, like, they can drag things down so fast if you have the wrong employee. So it's just so important that I like to say, and this was something I actually picked up when I was in the corporate world, and I see it play out over and over and over again. But your story is going to get told. The story of what the business is up to is going to get told. It's going to get told to the employees. It's going to get told to your customers. It's going to get told whether you like it or not. So you might as well be the one to tell it, because you can tell it the best, but your employees are going to be telling other employees the story as they see it. And it might not be a story that you like. So controlling that narrative is so important. And we see that with clients. We see that with employees. And so, if you have a cancerous employee, they're telling a story about your business that probably ain't the right one. And who knows why they're telling it or what bone they have to pick. But controlling the narrative is so important, and making sure that your employees are hearing from you and what the
100%.
story is and what you're up
And
to.
send surveys out. We have a quarterly survey that goes out to every employee. It's anonymous. It's 9 questions, and it's really powerful. The information you're requesting, overall satisfaction, anything about the job that can be improved. How would your benefits, your pay, just basic questions. And it's totally anonymous. You can kind of get your own little internal NPS of how your employees view your organization.
NPS meaning Net Promoter Score?
Net Promoter Score, yeah. Your own internal. Because Net Promoter Score is usually done for external customers, clients.
Yeah.
But internal, it's very important as well. And you can have, 3 people. I was talking when I started Click Call Sales, me and one person. Like literally my leadership team was me and one person. And we did it then. Just I need to know how we're doing. So as we scale, we develop and create this leadership team.
Hey, Shawn, it's just you and I. This survey here is anonymous.
Well, it's okay that you're correct. It is impossible to not anonymity with 2 people. However,
I thought about that, Michael, but I respect you too much to try to embarrass you like the host.
Well, I was going into the leadership. Like building your leadership team is important.
Right.
I dogged on his bar. All the
it was just
the Well Factory.
Well, this is a blue skies thing too, right, Dan? We used to do that exact thing, but it was working so well, we stopped doing it.
Oh yeah. We knocked that shit off right away.
Yeah. Stop that shit. That works too good.
Yeah. Well, boys, we all got work to do. I appreciate you guys jumping on, hanging out, talking about the not sexy part of our business, which is letting people go, and we got to let people go. It's the thing I'm the worst at. I know that is a fact. I don't know where you guys stand on this, because like some people are in the camp of like you should address your weaknesses, and some people I just ignore them and like pursue your strengths. Unintentionally, I've just ignored it. I haven't addressed it. I still suck at letting people go. I'm just gonna keep working on my strengths.
Hire them. Hire your weaknesses.
Yeah, there we go. As soon as I find my strengths, I'm gonna do more of them. In the meantime, everybody, thanks for tuning in. You play the play out music as the show is winding down. I'm getting better at this. I missed a couple weeks in a row. We had to do replay episodes, but now I'm getting back into it. That's it for Turfs Up Radio. That's it for Bookkeeping, Beer, and BS this Wednesday afternoon. I think I might have a guest lined up for tonight. I'm trying to solidify a guest tonight for the late night happy hour show, doing some one-on-one BSing and beer drinking. And if it's the guest that I think I'm going to have, who actually comes on this show pretty often, it might be an old-fashioned night. So if we don't see you then, I'll see you next week right here on Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station. Michael, thanks for coming on and hanging out and chatting with us. Shawn, thanks for coming and chatting with us. You guys rock. Viewers, thank you guys. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. Go check out the YouTube channel. Go check out the Facebook group. Go check out the podcast. You're probably on one of those right now, but go check out the other ones. We'll see you later. In the meantime, go make some money.